and then she gets an email.
I was in our bedroom and I was like, you've got to be kidding me. And you were like, what? And I was like, listen to this.
Everything that could go wrong went wrong, and that was the final thing that could possibly go wrong. Ready?
Go ahead. You're the introduction king.
What's going on, everybody? I'm Dustin. This is Haley, and we are just going to talk today about where we're at in life, where we're going, and what's going on.
That was really hot.
Yeah, that's a coffee drink, so what do you expect? All right, so for anybody who follows me on Facebook, you saw my post I made the other day. So we lived in Chicago because we were going to school there. Haley was going to school there, and I was attempting to go to school there as well. So we moved there July 31st and moved in August 1st and got really excited about that. And then 4 months later, we decided to move. So we just kind of want to explain where we went to school, why it didn't work out, and what we're doing now. So
our car is still filled with all of our stuff, so that's our TV right there. So I was enrolled at Moody Bible Institute. We're obviously not there anymore, so we're gonna talk about why we had to leave.
And so it is a mission-based school, which means that every program that you are studying there is for ministry work. So your schooling is completely paid for. All you have to pay for is your living expenses, your food, and just other, college-like fees. So that was a dream of mine to go there for several years because of the name. That was really it, because of the name. I want to have on my degree that I went to the school. And so in a lot of ways, God has really taught us both a lot of things along this past 4-month journey. But I wanted to go, and I was willing to just put it off because I knew that Haley had to get through her schooling. And she was living in Texas, and I was going to be moving to Texas as well, so that we could get married and then move in together. And then we served at a summer camp up where I'm from in Minocqua, and she met a lot of people who were very interested in that school. And as a result of that, God just put it on her heart to apply to the school. I was completely content with being in Texas. Her going to school, she had free tuition because of her dad serving in the military. So that was a huge blessing to have that. And she was like, I don't think I want to do that. I want to go to school, even though I may have to pay a little bit. I want to have a Christian education. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. I want to do whatever you want to do. I want to support you wherever you go. And then after that, I want to get my education and be able to serve in the vocation that I am pursuing. But it worked out that that's the same school I want to go to. So I'm like, sweet, I'm going to be able to study alongside you because we can do that. So she got accepted, and we got a moving truck this summer and got it loaded up and said goodbye to all of our great friends that we met at our awesome church and our awesome college ministry, and we had to say goodbye. So it definitely wasn't like a, yay, we're leaving and we're going to school. It was like, this is great. We get to get a good education, but at the same time, we're also saying goodbye to a lot of our friends. We had a very smooth trip up. We had no problems. We got up there in like 13 or 14 hours from Texas to Illinois. We had everything unboxed within, probably about a week. No, about a week and a half. We had everything unboxed. And then that's really when the first problem hit. And then from there, it was basically downhill. So
I want to make a disclaimer that this is not in any way us bashing the school. We really value the school. We appreciate their mission, but we are just going to give our real experience. First of all, we show up and I can't get into any of the buildings without an ID. And so we moved there like 2 weeks before move-in for others, because married people can move in sooner. And so we get there and I'm trying to get my ID. I'm trying to get my parking pass so I can park my car.
Trying to get connected to the Wi-Fi, which we cannot do.
You can't get connected to the Wi-Fi unless you have their specific thing. And so you had to download a thing to use the internet, which
only somebody who is in IT would know how to do.
Right,
you literally had to go down to the IT department to get it figured out.
But I can't get in the building without my ID. And so we waited for 2 weeks, kind of like cavemen, not knowing what to do, and I couldn't park my car. I had to park it in the visitor lot, and so
get towed.
And so every day I had to go down to the desk, have them print off a new visitor pass so my car wouldn't get towed. Get to registration day when all the students show up and start moving in. We go to the place where we're all supposed to get our information and our IDs, and I essentially don't exist. They don't know who I am. They didn't have anything for me. They gave me a temporary ID that could get me into the buildings, which that was great.
Just a fob. It was just a fob.
Which that was my first concern, because I'm like, how do they not know? Like, I've already gone through everything. I should have had a packet, but I didn't. And I talked to a few other people, and it happened to them too. I just felt like I had like fallen through the cracks. I didn't have anything that I needed. So we go through all of that. I'm able to get into the building to get my ID, but it's not ready yet. And I get into the building to get my parking pass, but nobody's ever there. We got sent to like 50 million different places.
And every person you ask for help to go somewhere, they send you somewhere else, and they send you somewhere else, and nobody really knew, what they were doing. So it was just, you're constantly going everywhere and not getting any answers. So it was a very discouraging start to everything.
And also, this whole time we're trying to figure out all this stuff, nobody answered any emails. Nobody answered any phone calls. When you call, it takes you straight to a voicemail, so you don't actually talk to somebody. You have to leave a voicemail, and they have to call you back. I never got calls back. I never got emails back in the very beginning.
Never got an RA assigned to you, which you're supposed to.
I was supposed to have an RA, and when we actually moved out, they were like, oh, check out with your RA. And I'm like, I don't know who my RA is. I never got one.
But fast forward to 2 weeks after we had gotten there, that was, all these little things were adding up, just not going good. And for me... And
they were just frustrating
things. It was frustrating. For her, it was more frustrating because she was the actual student. For me, I was just like, we just got to keep rolling with the punches and everything. And
bless you for dealing with me in that time. I was getting really stressed out, and I was like, Dustin, it's like nothing's working, no one answers me.
And that definitely was very frustrating, but it was all just a compilation, whatever, of all these little things. But then the big thing was 2 weeks after we got there, we had basically everything unloaded, and then she gets an email, and I think you're the one, did you read it first? And then
Yep, I read it to you because I was in our bedroom, and I was like, you've got to be kidding me. And you were like, what? And I was like, listen to this.
So she got an email from the head of housing or whatever. So the building that we're living in is for married students as well as graduate students. But they sent us an email saying that we had until May of 2021 to leave our building and find different housing, because they were in the works of selling it to a buyer that they had lined up. And the frustrating thing was that we were asked how long we had planned to be there, and both of us had planned on finishing our master's degrees. I wanted to go to seminary there, and so we planned on being there 3 to 4 years, and that's what we told them.
It had been in the works for a while.
Yeah, so to hear them say you have basically an 8-month window to get out. It was like, well, we said we were going to be here 3 to 4 years. If we would have known that you were selling this building, we never would have moved and went to school here to begin with. I mean,
Right.
we could have found an apartment. I could have worked full time.
But the problem with that is the fact that we had a whole idea of what we were going to do, and it kind of hinged on being able to
both go to
have
school.
married housing and both be able to go to school. So the fact that we didn't have a monthly rent that we had to pay, like obviously we would have to owe them money, but it wasn't immediate.
Yeah, the student loans obviously absorb that, so you pay that back later. So your rent, you technically have a rent, but it's being paid for by your FAFSA.
Right.
So, I mean, it's
And
really
so
nice.
the fact that, like, for one thing, I was for sure not going to work, so I could just blow through and get my education done. But if we had to move out of the building, for one thing, I don't know if any of y'all know, but living in Chicago is expensive. Especially, like, if you move, like, out, I mean, you know, it gets cheaper, but it's like we have to be somewhat close to the school.
Right.
And so anything around the school was ridiculous. And so if he had worked by himself, it still wouldn't be enough. I would have to work too, essentially, and then I would be a part-time student. Part-time doesn't get their tuition paid, by the way. I had a lot on my plate as a full-time student, and I was like, I don't know where I would find time to work in the middle of all this. And so really, because of that, like, it was either we're staying in married housing and going to school, or we're not going here at all.
And we weren't the only ones affected by that. I talked to another guy, he moved from Germany, that was very shocked by the news.
With his
and
family.
Didn't even really know what he was going to do. So it was like, that's really, I mean, for us, it's like, it's just the two of us, so we can adapt pretty quickly. But when you have a family of like 3 kids and a wife, it's like, that becomes a lot more difficult. So
I'm not mad that they were selling the building. I mean, it's theirs to decide what they want to do with, but the really frustrating part for me was the fact that they specifically asked us how long we planned on being there and never once mentioned that they were in the process of selling the building. That would have changed everything for us. We never would have moved into the building.
We never would have moved. We would have stayed in Texas. We were transitioning back to my home state of Wisconsin, I think, after like the end of September. So about 6 weeks after we had moved in, we began just taking boxes and stuff like that and moving them back up to my home state, because our plan was to just, we're going to move up there. And so now,
because if we're not going to live in Chicago, there's no point in him getting a job there. So we were like, well, his parents are 5 hours away, and we know that he can work with his dad and make good money. So that was just the most logical step for us. And thankfully with COVID, we have a high flex system. And so I was able to continue my classes from Wisconsin.
And the plan was to, her to just continue to take her classes online. And I think it was probably about 6 weeks ago now that you got an email, and I was at work and you texted me.
Well, I had emailed because I was going to talk to my advisor, because obviously going in person isn't an option anymore, which I was, upset about. But I was like, I can still get the degree that I want, and I'll just do it online. I've done online before. It's not an issue. So apparently my degree, which is human services, is the most popular degree at Moody. And so I rightfully didn't think that this would ever be an issue, but I emailed my advisor and I was like, I need to continue my degree online. And she told me, we don't offer your degree online. And I was on a Zoom call with her, and I can only imagine my face. It was not of shock. It was just like, I should have expected this.
Yeah.
My face was emotionless, because I was like,
everything that could go wrong went wrong, and that was the final thing that could possibly go wrong.
Because then I can't even get my degree there at all. So that was the final card in the whole house that made the entire house of cards fall down. And she, sweet lady, but she acted like it was not a problem at all. She was like, I'm just gonna send you a form. It's a change of major form. And I said, wait a minute. So in order to get my degree online, I have to change my major to something that you do offer online. She's like, yeah. And I'm like, yeah, I'll just change my major. I'll just change my whole career and everything that I want to do. Not happening. So it's like, if you can't give me the education that I need, I have to go somewhere else. But the point to all of this is, we believe there was a reason that we were there. Shorter than what we expected, but I learned so much in my time there. I met some awesome people. I had an amazing small group with people that I just adore. I'm not going to go into all the things that I think it could be as to why this all happened. I have a few hypotheses, but at the end of the day, I will never really know, and that is okay.
So we are currently living in my home state of Wisconsin, and we're hoping to, be here and just kind of lay low for a minute and kind of relax from all the moving and chaos that we've experienced over the past 4 months. A lot of traveling back and forth from Illinois to Wisconsin, and then, Lord willing, hopefully within the next calendar year, we'll be back in Texas by maybe November or December of 2021. Would be really awesome. So, but either way, the Lord is in control, and we don't need to be looking ahead at opportunities. There's opportunities right now to glorify Him, to serve our neighbor, to love our neighbor. And so that's what we're gonna try and do right now. We're gonna try and get involved in the church here in my hometown, and do what we can to just continue to be witnesses and just keep adapting to whatever happens in life.
So until next time,
later.
toodaloo. How do you feel?
I don't know. That's what it is. Not much you can do.
What are your feelings? Identify your feelings.
Identify my feelings. I guess a little bit of wonder of what could have been if we were still here. Like, if we would have got our degrees here, we would have graduated together probably, and so now we continue our education somewhere else and continue to do the plan that we had, just in a different place.
Amen. Love you.
Love you.